morning, Sarah.
Good morning.
So,
Hi, how are you?
so,
I'm not in the way, am I?
tell me about yourself, Wendy.
Okay, I work in the music business. I have worked 27 years. I set up record labels for rap artists. I teach
Cool.
them how to make money with their music.
They need you.
Yes, and then
I had Migo, I had Offset from Migos and Cardi B in my house recently. Migos' dad is one of my clients.
oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
You guys actually.
He hates the drama though. There's a lot of drama for them.
Yeah, especially right now.
Yeah.
Fabric.
Cool. And so what have you come to learn specifically?
More about commercial mortgages.
Okay. Cool. John, what brought you here?
I'm currently a contractor and I'm trying to break out of that. I'm on a 3-year plan to get out.
Okay.
And I'm interested in multifamily and commercial property, so I'm learning about mortgages.
Okay.
Here.
Gary?
Yeah, I'm a state employee, legislative analyst, virtually analyzing a lot of tax deals for Department of Revenue.
Tax bills, apartment revenue?
Any kind of tax deal, Department of Revenue.
Okay.
So can you get our tax review on that?
No, I only deal with legislation, okay?
Okay, so you're trying to get better at analyzing the net operating income or
No, I'm
something?
gonna retire in a year or so.
Okay. So you're for reverse mortgages and commercial loans?
Yes.
Okay. Mary?
The structure regarding taxes.
Okay. You want to talk, okay, great. So you're self-employed?
Well, I'm pretty much retired now, getting in that direction.
Okay. And you're trying to figure out if you want to do a Schedule C, 1120S, Schedule E, things like that?
When I hear you talk, I'll know what those things are.
Okay. All right, well, we're gonna touch on that, but you're gonna have to take a tax class. I'm not a replacement for that. So and I'll give you a worksheet. I emailed it to everyone, actually.
I think you're gonna be speaking about whether to defer, not defer, what year to take, days and all that
Yes,
stuff.
definitely.
So those are different aspects.
Holly, will you come up here, please? There's 2 worksheets. This is the self-employed income analysis worksheet. And we give everyone one of those. We don't really need the W-2 income worksheet.
Great, thank you so much.
All right?
Hey, Holly, why'd you bring those here, because I'm collating the other handouts.
No, nope, just this one by itself, beautiful to hand out. Trust me.
Okay, so throw all these away, Rick?
You can make a nice paper mache duck if you'd like. No, I'm just kidding. We're gonna hand these out, so it's okay if they're twice, it's just one piece of paper.
Is this the spreadsheet?
It's a self-employed income analysis worksheet.
Okay, because I have the other spreadsheet on them.
And you're doing a wonderful job, thank you.
What about the W-2 one?
We'll come back to it, but it's much more simple. If you're a W-2 employee, you're basically, your income is your salary, right?
No.
Okay, what's your are you a W-2 employee?
Yes, but we have other sources of income too.
Okay, so it's a 2-year average for overtime and commission. Okay? For a W-2 employee, it's a 2-year average for overtime and commission. And if you haven't been there 2 years, you don't get to average those in. And then it's basically based on your base. Now, if you have a base, you know what, we'll hand those out too when we get to that. If you just got a raise, let's say we order a verification of employment and you just got a raise and your new income is $120,000 a year. Okay? Well, it didn't matter what your previous W-2 said, that's the number we use at top for your base income. Now, if on top of that, you get continuous overtime and commissions or dividends or bonuses or something like that, or whatever it is, it's a 2-year average of everything over your base. Only if it's been continuous and consistent for 2 years. And then a lot of times people have loans on their paycheck stubs that aren't reporting because they may be from their IRA or they may be garnished for child support or something like that. So those take those into consideration. So that's pretty much it.
But they'll be in that form that you give.
Yeah, and I have it in Excel and everyone can have a copy of it too if they want to. Okay?
So I don't have anything, it's over.
self-employed, and I heard you speak at one of the meetings that you can show investors when they need to pull out money and get new loans for properties to show more income, and then vice versa when they don't want to show income.
Right.
So I'm all ears for that this morning.
Okay. All right, cool. And I don't want anyone breaking the law. I don't encourage anyone to.
I just want to bend it.
And take advantage.
This isn't a legal class or a tax class, and all my recommendations are purely for entertainment purposes. Sarah,
Yes.
glad you made it.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about your background.
I was in mortgage. I was an internal auditor for a credit union, so I'll be working with Rick, so I'm just excited to hear all about self-employed income. That's a little new to me, so.
Okay, Holly, throw a sentence out there.
Hey, I'm Holly. I work with Rick.
Nailed it.
My name is Darshan Patel, I'm there on software and commercial loans.
Okay, say that last part again.
I'm just learning about commercial loans.
Okay. John?
I'm Johnny Kidd, work with power company. Just some kind of on the side, and I'm just trying to learn commercial.
Okay, commercial loans? All right. What do you got to learn?
What you want to talk about, residential mortgages and qualifying?
Residential?
Yep. Go ahead, sir.
Okay. Mikey?
Hello.
Mike was a reverse mortgage client of mine, and he's a charming and dynamic man. I'm glad to have him. You want to say anything?
Oh, thank you.
All right.
Dynamic especially, remember the dynamic. Slightly.
All right, cool. So, who wants to hear about reverse mortgages? Raise your hand if you want to hear about reverse mortgages. Okay, just one? All right. So
Just what? Seriously?
A little bit, yeah.
okay, so we're going to touch on reverse mortgages. Mike has one. They changed it. I'm going to oversimplify it for the purposes of explanations. But it's basically at 50% loan to value. This thing sucks. Beauty.
What about the border, anybody understand?
Sustain.
So, reverse mortgages are basically at 50% loan to value. Okay? Now, they are three different types. Well, yeah, there's three basic types. One's a line of credit, just like a HELOC. Okay? But if you're doing if you own your property and you're cashing out, for the protection of the senior, just in case he's being manipulated by family members to draw out a cash, they only allow you to get 50% of the line the first year, and then the rest of the line is available the second year. Okay?
What do you mean available within 24 months after you can take it out, or what does that mean? After the 12th month?
So if you have a $400,000 house and you qualify for 50% loan to value, you can get $100,000 at closing. And then on the 366th day, you can get another $100,000.
No time in between, on or before the 366.
No, nothing in between.
All right, got it.
Wendy, can I move you?
Sure.
Would you mind sitting right there?
No problem.
All right, so the second is a fixed installment loan. Okay. Now there's no payments required, right? So the payments, it would just go into a negative amortization. So each month the balance would go up by the payment, and then that would be compounding because the entire balance would accrue interest. Okay? That loan to value may be at 40% because it's a little bit in between the 25 and the 50. The third type, which most people are familiar with, is the installment payment arrangement. If someone is used to living on a fixed income and wants to supplement their existing fixed income with some more income, they can say draw out $1,000 or $2,000 a month into perpetuity. Now, it's just like any FHA loan. The upfront mortgage insurance premium is 1.75%, but it's based on the principal limit, which is 150% of the estimated value of the property. So instead of getting, it's not 1.75% of the $100,000. It's 1.75% of the $400,000, of 150% of the $400,000. So there's a gigantic FHA insurance premium. But that FHA insurance premium, and there's monthly insurance, just like in the monthly mortgage insurance, just like in the FHA loan on the payment equivalent. But the mortgage insurance creates a lot of benefits to the consumer, such as it makes it non-recourse. The non-recourse factor is beautiful. That means a senior can have $1 million in cash, give it to his heirs, and then be in a negative equity position on his house, and there's no recourse from the house to the rest of the estate. It's held separately, it's insured, it can be abandoned, it can be left to go into foreclosure without consequence, okay?
Do we have an example, like, let's just say the house is worth $200,000.
Mm-hmm.
You had an appraiser come out and says $200,000. How would this third one play out, numbers wise? Because you're saying 50% LTV, then you're saying 150% of the estimated value of the house. I'm confused.
Okay. So, Holly, will you get my phone out of the car? Who has the financial calculator app downloaded on their phones?
So why is it they use 150%?
Because it could possibly, okay, so if inflation's at 4% and your mortgage interest rate's at 5%, so if inflation's at 4%, then your FHA loan is probably gonna be at 5%, okay? If it's not exactly those numbers, let's just entertain it for example purpose. Okay? So, let's say you have a $400,000 house. There's an app I want everyone to download. It's called the Financial Calculator. It looks like this little blue guy. You can pass this around. Little blue calculator right there at the top.
Which was the blue guy?
Second
Which one
one.
is this?
Second one.
Which one is it?
The second one.
Says financial calculator is free, financial calculator app, financial calculator.
Hey, you know what? Let me see something. We got a projector on.
HP12C.
I think it's called
Doesn't
Easy
matter which one
Financial.
you load, they're all pretty much similar.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
Is there a little stack of coins on the right-hand side?
Hey, Steve, hit the lights.
Over here?
Garrett,
Can you sit that?
Turn the light off.
Is it
Yeah,
that?
well, they're over
You can take that.
This?
Yeah, turn the lights off.
You got an iPhone or a Android?
Android.
there.
Financial calculator free or HD?
So which one, yeah, which one do you want?
There's a bunch of ones.
About 10 of them on
I want you guys to get this one.
I'm old school, I've got a
I think it's the
handheld.
second, it's the
Oh,
second one down.
Second
Yeah,
one?
with the coins on it.
Yeah, the Easy Financial Company. It's baby blue with a white calculator and gold coins.
On Apple,
It's
it's
easy.
easy.
Yeah.
Letter E, letter Z.
Got it.
Mine says easy, I don't know why.
Was that a handout?
Exactly. The little blue one with the gold coins.
It doesn't say.
Mine's fire.
His doesn't say.
I'm on
easy.
Apple.
Mine's not, mine.
Financial calculator.
Yeah.
Or just financial calculator. I would look for the icon.
So we have a $400,000
Yeah, look at the icon,
house.
mine just says financial.
You
Yeah.
have a $400,000 house. Okay, what was the question again?
This is basically how this installment payment arrangement works, where you have 150% estimated value of the house that you were saying before,
Right.
50% LTV.
Okay, so click on your, so it's a negative AM, right? So click on your financial calculator. Put in,
Just the loan calculator? Oh, okay.
go to time value of money calculator. Okay? Holly, will you come up here and erase this, please? So the present value, let's say, is 200,000.
Okay, because that's where you're doing the 50% off, right?
We're doing the loan amount.
Why don't you just do it per 100,000, and we'll know what it is per 100,000.
All right, so we're trying to figure out what the, we're answering one question at a time, I think. So we're gonna answer the first question, which is, well, how does negative amortization work? What's the future value? What's the balance after it accumulates, after time or whatever? So there's no payments, let's say. So 0 for payments. So you want to know what the future value is after a year at 5%. So let's go 12 periods. So in a year, that balance is going to go up to $210,000, right? At 5% in a year, the balance will $210,000, right? Now, what's going to be the balance in 20 years? It's 240 months. $542,000.
Right.
Okay. Now let's say we're talking about Mike over here. And let's say Mike's house depreciates, right? And it's not worth more than, it was originally worth 400,000, but now, you know, the Chinese bought the US, the yen is taking over, US currency goes to dog crap. Imagine whatever scenario you want. But for argument purposes, let's just say his house is now worth 350. He's got a negative $192,000 equity position, right?
Got it.
Okay, so not making a payment and letting accrue interest was a fantastic financial decision for him. And that's also why everyone should have a reverse mortgage HELOC, because no matter how much money you have, you can establish the line of credit, not draw on it, and it's gonna grow at 4% per year.
Okay.
So even if he didn't need the money or doesn't need the money, he can establish the line of credit, not use it, and then if he decides he'd rather have $542,000 than his house, he can write a check.
Okay.
It's the best insurance policy you can have on declining, on hedging risk against declining values.
So the question is, so in that scenario there, how much money is he getting up front, or how much money is he getting over time?
Okay, so,
Or monthly payments, let me put it that way.
okay, so he just has a line of credit.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay,
it's a
so the
HELOC.
line of credit, and the line of credit is 200,000.
Yes, it is now because it's 1 year anniversary since the, he took out his.
And the line of credit is
Hit
based
those
on,
lights?
and the line of credit of that 200,000 is based on 50% of what the fair market value of the house was.
More or less.
Yeah.
Yes,
I
for
understand.
example purposes, yes.
Got it.
But it's based on age, so it could be anywhere from 46% to 52%.
Got it.
Okay? So, I'll touch on the theory to this, and then we're gonna move on past reverse mortgages. Okay? So, and FHA is making more money off the upfront insurance than anything else. So there is no consequence to the economy or HUD by engaging in that process, because they have more than enough reserves to pay off deficiencies on mortgages. They actually suggested to reduce the FHA upfront insurance, but the current administration said, no, let's keep it going the way it is because it doesn't hurt to save extra money.
Yeah.
They actually said that.
Yeah.
Can't believe that.
So, well, you don't want HUD to have a financial problem. You don't want Fannie Mae to have a financial problem. You don't want Freddie Mac to have a financial problem. So the government housing authorities being lucrative is something that I'm a fan of, being in the mortgage business. So if your house appreciates at 5% and your mortgage accumulates at 5%, then they're both going up in parallel. So theoretically, you should be able to, you'll be proportionately increasing, right? But if your house declines in value, then this is where you become a huge winner. And that is why everyone should have a reverse mortgage HELOC on their free and clear house. Not to mention if Mike builds a project and doesn't put up the right safety involved and someone falls off the building and his liability insurance doesn't pay, they're gonna try to sue him personally or sue his business or come after him in some way. Well, if that attaches to his house, he can max it out and they'd have to pay his first mortgage position too. So it adds another layer of protection as well. So it serves a legal purpose, it serves a financial planning purpose, and it serves a monetary purpose. It's my favorite product for a senior, and it has the worst reputation. It's plagued with misconceptions, such as losing your house, you do not lose your house, you own title, and your heirs have a year after you die to refinance or sell the property.
Do you have a handout on this on your website, or do you have a handout physical?
We have a handout.
Oh, okay.
Do you want it? It's in color.
It's just too bad that the upfront cost went up recently, because it was much lower, right? Until about 6 months ago or something.
Well, the principal limit, the loan sizes went down, so they went up proportionately, but they didn't actually go up on the
No,
model.
I mean, the upfront cost, I don't think it was 1.75.
Yeah, it's been 1.75.
What has been? There's something that changed.
Yeah, the loan sizes have gone down. It used to be 70% loan to value, now they're down to 50% loan to value. It also gives you the opportunity to buy twice as much house. You know, if you wanna buy a $400,000 house and you have you can buy an $800,000 house with the same $400,000. The reverse mortgage purchase program allows you to buy twice as much house. And if you have no income, you still can qualify. Okay, so it's also a foreclosure rescue program for seniors. And you have to have enough income to afford your taxes and insurance and maintenance. But other than that, you don't have to show more income. So that's another regulation that changed. It used to be no income, but now it's slight income. But there's not really much of a credit criteria. And it's all common sense underwriting.
Do you have another handout on that?
I have it digitally, and I think Karen's printing it.
Okay, thank you.
And we didn't use that. That's just
I'll write on that, pass it around.
yeah. And I have it digitally. If anyone wants a copy, I'd be happy to email it to them. All right. What topic do you guys want to hear about next? Let me give you the 7. So we've got potential, okay? Potential. Not a good speller. Not a smart man.
No skills.
All right, so agency residential is Fannie, Freddie, FHA, VA, USDA, right? So Fannie and Freddie do investment property also, right, up to 10, but they're gonna require you to finance them in your name, not an LLC. FHA, USDA, VA, those are owner-occupied types of loans. We're gonna expand on that, but right now we're just gonna go over the list. There's 7 types. Second type, non-agency residential. Okay? That means it's not Fannie, Freddie, VA, FHA, USDA. That means it's private companies. They are mainly doing bank statement loans. Since the Dodd-Frank Act and the ability to pay criteria was passed, requires loan officers to calculate someone's ability to repay a loan with a fiduciary responsibility. So if you don't have the tax returns, bank statement, paycheck stubs, or documentable income, the non-agency guys created a third method, which is bank statements. If you can produce 12 months bank statements showing your income, then that can be the basis for approving your income to qualify. Okay? That being said, income, credit, and assets are the 3 main qualifying criteria at this point. Income being your personal income, credit being your personal credit, and assets being liquid assets for our purposes, not cars or watches, but cash in a liquidable account, such as bank accounts, IRAs, 401ks, stocks, bonds, things like that. The third one is going to be commercial. So let's talk about what it means to be commercial and what it means to be residential. If I'm buying an investment property and it's a house and it's residentially zoned, is that a residential loan or is that a commercial loan?
Residential.
That is incorrect. It's a commercial loan because it's business purpose. It's on a residential property, but it's a business purpose loan, so it's a commercial loan, okay? Now, if I'm buying a commercial building, is that a residential loan or a commercial loan? It's a commercial loan. If I'm buying a house, is that a residential loan? If I'm gonna live in it, yes it is. And that is where all the compliance comes in. Dodd-Frank, ability to repay, the SAFE Act, using a licensed loan officer, and a myriad of laws that we're not gonna go into. Okay? All right, so this is a commercial light dock for residential. So commercial light dock for residential means that we don't really need tax returns, okay? Now, is income credit assets still a factor? Yes. But now, we're moving on to the income of the property. This becomes a DSCR calculation, while this is a DTI calculation.
Okay, what are the differences?
Good question, Mike, thank you for asking that. DTI is debt to income personally. If I make $100,000 a year and I've got $1,000 car payment and a $3,000 mortgage payment, I have a 40%, $120,000, $10,000 a month, I have a 40% DTI ratio, okay? $4,000 going out a month, $10,000 in income, is 40% of 10 grand, that's a 40% debt to income ratio, okay? Any questions about DTI? It's just what's reporting, and then it's the PITI payment, not just the principal and interest. Taxes and insurance, principal and interest, plus whatever else is reporting on my credit, plus any garnishments I may have, child support, other non-reporting loans that may appear in my paycheck stub or things like that. Okay? Now, DSCR is the ratio of rent to, not NOI, before you say anything, Steve. It's the ratio of rent to the PITI payment, okay? So, so if you collect $1,500 a month in rent, and you collect and you have a $1,000 PITI payment, that is a 1.5 to 1 DSCR, debt service coverage ratio. Debt service coverage ratio. Okay? So this criteria is 1.5 plus, and this criteria is 50% or less. 1.5 or higher, 50% or less.
Isn't it also just a DCR, debt coverage ratio?
Yeah, you could. I don't call it that, but you wouldn't be incorrect to call it that.
That's what I always.
Excuse me.
Fourth one is full dock, commercial residential. Okay? So if you try to hold it in an LLC, you're gonna be here. You try to hold it at closing. If you try to hold it in your name, you're gonna be in here. Okay? You can transfer it with no consequence to your LLC after you close if you do a Fannie Freddie loan. All right? Number 5. Number 5 is one of my favorites. Hard money, bridge lenders. You know what, let's not call them hard money, let's call them bridge lenders. The largest bridge lender in America is Blackstone. They're a hedge fund. They loan a lot of money out to investors. Investors want to see a 10% return. The only way they're going to get that is by doing higher interest rate, high risk, short-term loans. So if you wanted to buy a property and rehab it, this would be the way you would go if it's a business purpose commercial loan. If you were going to live in it, you couldn't do this. You'd have to go with an FHA 203K, which we'll come back to in a minute. The bridge loans are 90% loan to value of acquisition and up to, let's say up to 90% for people with good credit and good experience. So, if you find a house that's a great investment, so let's say it's worth $200,000 fixed up and it needs some $20,000 worth of love and care, and you can buy it for $80,000. Let's say you're buying a foreclosure. That's $100,000 total cost. $80,000 acquisition, $20,000 for rehab. And let's say the seller's paying closing costs. Okay? This industry will do it for $10,000 out of pocket. And it's designed for someone who can rehab something, fix it up, get on the market and sell it. So hopefully they don't want to, they're not trying to repossess or foreclose. But you will find some unscrupulous private lenders that approach it with that angle. But more of your institutional ones are just trying to perform and sell them back to the investors. Okay? Number six is going to be commercial. It's a commercial loan on a commercial property. And number 7 is going to be one of my favorites, which is agency commercial. SBA, Fannie, Freddie, commercial loans. Those are full documentation. To do a agency commercial loan, you've got to have fantastic credit, a high net worth, income on your personal, income in your business, make sense business plan, and a make sense acquisition. And it's common sense. And it can and will get turned down if someone doesn't like the way something smells. Because it's private. They don't even have to have a reason. They can say things like, it just doesn't fit our wheelhouse. It's always fun to hear. All right, so let's play with some scenarios. Let's say we find a house for $80,000. Want to spend the $20,000 to rehab it. We get a hard money loan and fix it up, and we want to refinance it. If you have the tax returns and income to support it, you can hold it in your personal name. Go agency residential. When you go to refinance it, you can go Fannie Freddie at 5.5% roughly. Okay, so let me tell you about interest rates first of all. In the Fannie Freddie agency arena, almost everyone is about the same. It's very hard to get to 0.25 more or less than the next competitor, because there's point limitations, high cost limitations. Everyone's selling it to Fannie Mae. Fannie Mae won't buy it if it's too expensive. FHA, all the agency loans, everyone's within a quarter on the rate, okay? Now, you'll see rates advertised at 4.25, and once you get involved in the adjustments, the investment loans are around 5.5, because there's a full percentage for investment adjustments. Okay? So, if Mike buys an investment property, since he has that wonderful line of credit, he could use that, but let's say he doesn't want to use that. Let's say he says, you know, Rick, I would prefer to hedge my risk, go with a investment lender, because if it doesn't work out and he goes into foreclosure, it doesn't affect his credit. He gets a mulligan. And he only paid 10 grand to play this game. So he says, you know what, Rick, I'm not too good at this construction thing, but I'm willing to bet $10,000 I can make $100,000, so let's gamble it. So I'm like, all right, Mike, let's do this. So he buys this house for 10 grand out of his pocket, right? And then he goes to refinance it. Well, I look at his tax returns, and I say, Mike, you've been showing $100,000 a year in income on your LLC. He's like, yeah, just this basket business I bought's killing it. So I'm like, oh, okay, well, you know what? We can go Fannie Freddie. As long as it's been in existence for 2 years, we can go Fannie Mae. But Freddie Mac will let you go with 1 year's tax returns. So, let's say Mike's business has been around for 5 years. And in 2013, he made negative 100 grand. In 2014, he made negative 50 grand. In 2016, negative 25, 17, 0, but this year, he made $100,000. I can wait till January 1st, till he gives me his 2018 tax returns, qualifying based on that $100,000. That's Freddie Mac. Loves the self-employed guy. 1 year's return. But Mike says, oh, you know what, Rick, I don't want to pay the taxes. I'm not going to show the income. Just use my bank statements. Now I've got to go non-agency. But he can give me 12 months personal bank statements or 2 years business bank statements. I can take a 12-month average of his personal bank statements or a 2-year average of half his business bank statements, deposits. Half is because it's a business. Because there's overhead. Now, he's like, let's say he said, no, Rick, I get it in cash. It's a basket business on the corner of 2 Notch Road in Piedmont. I was like, all right, Mike, that's cool. So, we can go commercial light. Because that house is going to rent for, let's just say, 1%. 1% is what I normally use as a gross rent multiplier. If it rents for 1%, that's $2 grand a month. No problem, will we be able to keep the payment so debt service coverage as well to beat anyone's qualifications for that. This is a standard, not a pass-fail criteria. The pass-fail criteria is usually 1.25 with most lenders. If you have something that's even negative debt service coverage, and you can explain that you got it because it's an appreciating area, we still can refinance it. A lot of people on the West Coast don't really debt service coverage, but they're appreciating, which is also why it's volatile. So, if Mike has a C Corp, not an S Corp or LLC, he could go full doc commercial res. So let's say he's got a C Corp, and the C Corp keeps the money in the corporation, doesn't pay himself. And he just pays himself 10 grand a year. Well, he doesn't qualify Fannie Freddie because he doesn't show enough income, but his corporation does. So that's where full doc commercial will come in. commercial wouldn't apply because it was zoned residential. All right. So, let's go to this worksheet.
Do an extra one. Do an extra one of those.
Yeah. Good if he shows enough income on his
Okay.
1040s.
Okay, he could use a non-agency residential loan, obviously.
If he shows income somewhere,
Yeah, okay, he could use a commercial light
anytime,
anytime, okay,
as
so,
long as it debt service coverage is.
right. Okay, so he could use a commercial light in order to refinance it, if he wanted to use it as a buy and hold type
If
property.
the house is in Macon
Yeah,
and it rents for $400 a month and he bought it for $100 grand, he's not gonna be able to refinance it with anybody.
right. I understand that, but
Right.
let's just assume positive.
Well, I'm sorry, he's not gonna be able to refinance it with a commercial light doc lender, but he can still do it Fannie Freddie.
Okay,
Or non-agency residential because it's based on his income, not the property DSCR.
okay, but let's just say that it does cash flow appropriately.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, the investment property cash flows, he could still do a commercial light. If
Yes.
it meets the DSCR.
Yes.
Okay, cool. And then after he could either then repay that line of credit back into the reverse mortgage.
Mhm.
Okay.
Or not.
Or not.
Yep.
If he were to repay back the reverse mortgage, HELOC, he could then capture whatever appreciation may have happened during that time that he held that HELOC.
So the HELOC line of credit
Yeah,
is gonna appreciate at the credit limit is gonna appreciate at 5%,
got it.
okay? The balance is gonna accrue interest.
Right,
So if he's maxed out, they're going to both grow in parallel,
right,
right? But if he's not maxed out, the credit limit's gonna grow and his balance is gonna grow and the margin's gonna stay consistent.
okay. But it will continue to increase over time.
But yeah, both of them will.
But he locks it, okay, okay.
Well, you get two scenarios. If you, let's say you didn't use the line of credit, then at the end of a period of time, you could write a check for whatever was there plus the 5% increase and walk away, right?
Repeat the question?
If you, let's say that I didn't use the line of credit at all,
Yeah.
okay, and 10 years from now.
The balance is zero.
Balance is zero.
Well, you gotta keep $1 and, gotta keep the balance as $1 or it closes itself out automatically.
Okay,
Balance is a zero or $1.
dollar, okay.
Balance is $1.
Okay, so let's say that in 10 years, it's $300,000,
The balance or the value?
the value of
Okay.
the loan.
The value of the house or
No,
or the
value.
balance of the loan?
Value of what I could borrow,
Okay, the credit limit,
the credit limit.
yes,
Okay, I could write a check for $300,000 and walk away.
absolutely.
But if the house is worth $400,000, why would I wanna do this?
You wouldn't,
Okay.
yeah.
So you would basically, the ultimate is the value of the property that is, you got the loan against. Is the ultimate amount. It'd be better off for me to sell the house and take the money.
Yeah,
Now, in the event that Mike would die, and we don't want that to happen anytime
Thanks.
soon, Mike. But the point is his heirs would have up to 12 months in order to pay off, if they wanted to keep his house that he was living in. They would have 12 months to pay it off.
sell or refinance, yeah.
What would they be having to pay at that time? They'd have to just pay what, the $200,000 back?
Whatever the balance is,
Whatever the balance is of the line of credit at that time?
yes.
Is there any sort of interest payments, or is it just a line of
There's
credit?
no required payments ever.
Cool, okay, thank you for explaining.
Yeah, it's a fantastic project.
How old do you have to be?
62. Now, if the house is worth less than the balance,
Right,
HUD will reduce the balance to 90% of the appraised value at that time.
okay.
That's good.
Mhm. Yeah. You can manipulate this in so many wonderful ways. He could draw out the entire amount by life insurance, lump sum life insurance policy, that pays 2 to 1 normally, and max out the house, and let's say simultaneously the house depreciates, that the heirs would inherit, if it was $300,000, they'd inherit $600,000 tax-free, and not have to mitigate the house through probate or estate.
What happened, let's do one other what if here on that one. So let's say that the value, as we used in the example before, was $400,000. The line of credit is $200,000.
Yeah.
Let's say that we hit another downturn in the market,
Okay.
okay? Now, Mike's still alive through the downturn, but the house is now.
Sorry, Mike.
You poor guy. But look at it this way, you got 9 lives so far in this example.
I hope nothing happens to you during this meeting, we never forgive ourselves.
It's just the downturn happens and the house goes down to $340,000, okay? Now, Mike suddenly has the value, the total value of the house goes down to 340, okay? From 400 down to 340. Now, Mike suddenly has to go to assisted living. And the heirs, what would happen in that sort of situation there? He's moving physically out of the house.
So he's required to live in the house,
Yeah,
okay?
yeah,
That definition's vague.
yep.
Now, if he abandons the property and buys a house in Key West and never returns to this house, then he's certainly abandoned it and breached the criteria for owner occupancy.
Correct.
But if he visits his house,
Okay.
then he will have met the criteria of still living there.
So basically, we just have to get him in a wheelchair and wheel him into the house.
Really mean in the house, any old time.
Okay.
Once a
You make me coffee.
I need to get
Yeah.
Remember
Yeah.
the rock.
All right, let's do another scenario, something that doesn't involve Mike or wheelchairs. All right, Wendy, give me a scenario.
I'd like to buy a hotel,
Mm-hmm.
maybe an old one that's in disrepair,
Okay.
and I'd like to fix it up,
Okay.
get it back up to market standards, and
Okay.
then sell it. So I wanna flip an old red roof in.
Okay. So you're gonna Section 8 it? How are you gonna fill it up? So that's
My
actually
marketing genius.
genius in multi-levels, and let me tell you why. Airbnb is gonna beat the crap out of the cheap hotels, just like Uber and Lyft kick the crap out of taxis. Okay? There's gonna be a ton of those that come on the market. And then at the same time, excuse me. Hey, buddy. No problem. I'm teaching I'm teaching a class. How's your brother? Okay, good. All right. Good luck. When are you gonna be back in town? Okay. All right. Best wishes to you and your family. Thank you. Bye. All right. So we are coming into a commercial correction. There is more than we need for commercial office space. We're in a virtual world. People are working from home. It's a catching trend. People love it, and I encourage it. Get off our roads. Stop driving. Stay home. Okay? There's more and more of that. And voice over IP and the technology and the computer systems and everything is making it all more comfortable than ever. More offices than we need. Simultaneously, there's Airbnb and those virtual systems are going to beat up those cheap hotels. So they're going to become available. Now, what would you do with that building? Hopefully, you look at the environment and you trend the data and you say, okay, there's 500,000 people moving to Atlanta in the next 5 years. Half of them are going to be millennials, and most of them are going to make under $30,000 a year. Meanwhile, 100,000 people in the same demographic are losing their Section 8 vouchers. So I'm going to meet that demand by converting this crappy Motel 6 into a slummy halfway house from the millennials on Section 8.
Okay, let's do that.
We need you. They gotta live somewhere.
Forget your boutique hotel.
You better have a lot of money, because no one's gonna wanna approve that, as brilliant as it is. First of all, it's currently not cash flowing, so your pro forma is gonna be all fantasy. And then, we're gonna ask you questions like, have you ever done this before? And you're gonna say no. And it's gonna be a short conversation. Now, if you've done it before on different levels, like residential rehabbing, and then you can produce a track record of business returns that shows that you've had success doing it on a commercial level, then you can show income and show 30% to put down on this hotel, and put resumes together of people who can manage this sort of project on your LLC operating agreement, then you have a good chance.
Okay. What if it's cash flowing, and what if I have partners that are Patels that have done this before?
Oh, see, why we gotta be Patels? There's an Indian guy in the back. Are you offended, sir? Okay. Repeat the question in a
Let's
politically
say,
correct manner.
okay, let's say it's cash flowing and I have partners that have done this before.
The hotel that you're gonna gut is cash flowing? Well, that's not relevant, because you're not gonna keep that business model.
Okay.
So this is common sense underwriting now.
Right.
This is big dollar common sense underwriting. This will allow you to have, offers grants and different projects and different things for low-income housing. You can get loans, and you gotta own the building to apply for that loan. So that's a hurdle that you have to overcome in the beginning. But, you've got to keep your apartments below a certain dollar amount, including utilities. For example, if the government says they'll give you a $2 million loan, but you have to keep each unit under $600, including utilities. And that's after you own the building. So that's actually a great business model. And if anyone's interested in that, give Holly your name and we'll shoot you emails to keep you abreast of different pieces of information that you may need to pursue that dream. And you may want to assemble some people with some money and some experience in that thing, because
That's what you're gonna need.
because you're gonna need them. You're gonna need their experience, and there's gonna be a lot more hotels than there are yous. So the opportunity is readily available. We actually are syndicating that sort of a business model. So it's actually a really brilliant thing that you're talking about. I run the venture capital group, so that's why we're into syndicating projects. So in your case, to pursue that, you're not gonna get into agency commercial, okay? You're gonna be non-agency commercial,
Okay.
okay? And you're gonna have to have a group that shows enough income where they can tote this note if it fails miserably.
Okay.
Plus 30% down as a minimum off the start, and at least 30% down, 30% more in reserves afterwards. So if you're gonna buy $1 million building, you're gonna have to have $300,000 as a minimum to put down. And there, you're gonna have to have a minimum of a couple $100,000 afterwards. So, because they don't wanna see you using every penny you've got.
Right.
And they wanna see income. And they wanna see positive track record. And they wanna see a resume. So, this comes down to business plan, resume, plus income credit assets.
Right.
And they're also gonna want to see the property, because they're looking at, what if we have to take this?
Right.
Are we gonna completely take a bath? So if it's on Peachtree Street, that gets a big check plus. If it's out in Macon, it's gonna get a negative. Not a big fan of Macon. It smells terrible there. If the wind's blowing west, it smells like the glue plant. If it's blowing east, it smells like the chicken factory. That's bad. Either way, it stinks at least half the time. All right, what's your scenario, John?
My scenario, I'm looking for a quadplex
Okay.
or
How many properties do you own now?
none.
That's easy. You buy an FHA, you can, if you live in it, which you should, you can go up to, someone Google the loan limit on an FHA quad, I think it's 720,000 or 680,000. It's per county, so let's say you're in Fulton County, you can buy a quad. So let's, someone want to Google it for me? I get distracted easy. So the FHA loan limit, I want to say for single family is $359. For twoplex it goes up, and then threeplex it goes up, and then for a fourplex it'll go up to, anyone?
I'm trying. The
That's by
internet in
county.
here is really slow.
Why don't you need the internet to use your phone?
Or I don't know what's going on, the signal. Okay, here.
I want to say it's 680,000. Okay? So you can buy a $700,000 quad and put down 3.5%.
It's $692,200.
Yay. Put down 22 grand, borrow $690,000, and your payment's only gonna be about $3 grand a month.
Which one does that fall under?
Agency residential. So, this is FHA, VA, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, and USDA. Fannie Mae will let you do it too, with 5% down, and their loan limit, I believe, is $850 for a quad. So, let's say you find this beautiful, badass quad, and each unit rents for $3 grand a month, which isn't a big, hard to believe, you know. For $800,000, you should get a pretty nice quad, right? You could make $9,000 a month in gross net revenue after you pay off your $3,000 PIT mortgage payment. Well, at that level, it's gonna be more like 5 with taxes and insurance. So you're collecting 12, you pay 5, save a couple thousand for maintenance and management or whatever. And you're making $5,000 a month passive income. That is my recommendation to every first-time investor, is to buy a quad. I'm the buy a quad, first-time investor, broken record guy.
Does that count like townhouses that are connected in the group, or is it something different to be a quad?
It can be, depending on how it's parceled. If it's 4 townhomes with a courtyard in the middle on a single parcel, that's a quad. If it's 4 townhomes parceled separately, they're 4 townhomes.
Oh, okay, so.
If it's 4 townhomes with overlapping parking space, that's 4 condos with an HOA.
What would the interest rate be on that? Ballpark.
4.5 Fannie, 4.25 FHA.
point in time can he take off and go to Key West?
Immediately after.
So we can run all four?
There's no restriction for him to occupy it after the first 6 months. So he could buy one, move out, buy another one, move out, buy another one, move out, which is one of my strategies that I suggest for investors called the house hopper.
But I would
Take the house hopper.
But he's gotta stay so long, right?
Well, it's technically misrepresentation of occupancy if he never moves into it, which is paramount to real estate fraud. So he should move into it the first year, but he's not licensed, so there's really no consequence to him. They'd have to come after me. He'd have to go into default, and they'd have to ask me what happened, and I'd say, I don't know, he told me he was gonna live there. And then if I have a trend of misrepresenting occupancy, then I would be subject to fines and actions for misrepresenting material facts, even though they happen in the future.
Smile at the camera.
Huh?
Smile on the camera when you say it.
Yeah. But if he doesn't own anything now,
I do.
oh, you own a house and you live in it?
I live in it.
Okay. Well, you could buy a quad Fannie Mae. I'm sorry, I thought you said you didn't have it. You were looking to buy a house to live.
No. This is, I
He's
own
on a quad.
It's on a
Okay,
quad.
okay. So 20%, so if you can buy a quad, 15% is an investment property, Fannie Mae, okay? Or Freddie Mac, 15% down, okay? And your income is gonna have to be high enough to qualify for the payment based on your 1040s. If you go agency.
Okay.
When would you use could you use number 3 to
Yeah.
buy that quad?
Yes, you could. And then your rate would be more around 6.5.
Okay.
And then, if you have, let's say, 700 credit, and then here your rate would be more around 6, if you're able to go full doc, commercial res.
You would have to have 700 credit for commercial or full doc.
So for agency for FHA to live in it, you'd have to have like a 600 credit score,
Okay.
okay? For Fannie Freddie, as an investment property, you'd have to have a 680 credit score.
Okay.
For commercial light, you'd have to have like a 600 credit score. And then this would be 20% down. And it would have debt service coverage. And this would be 15% down, and it would be based on DTI.
And more than likely, I have partners with me.
Okay, so you're gonna buy it in an LLC?
Yeah.
Okay, then you'd be here at 6.5.
So to do the commercial light, would you have to already have like leasing agreements in place to show rent? You know,
No.
if you don't know exactly what you're gonna be renting for, or is it just an estimate?
So the appraiser is going to do a median rental income
Oh, gotcha.
calculation if it's not rented. If it is rented, it's gonna be based on the existing leases.
Okay, so could we run through that one more time? You did a great job, it was pretty quick. On the agency, with Fannie or Freddie, you'd have to have 15% down.
Mhm.
On the non-agency, how much would you have to have down? 20? Number 2, non-agency.
We didn't talk about that one in that scenario.
Oh, okay.
That 20 is a safe guess, though.
Okay, and then, but is that a likely, or is that a less likely in the non-agency?
It's likely.
Okay, on the commercial.
And this is all based on high credit scores.
Right, we're gonna go to that question in just a second. So the commercial would be 20% down also, and full doc would be 20% down?
Yes.
Okay, so,
Up to, a lot of your lenders are gonna be 70% loan to value here, but so it's up to 80% loan to value.
okay, so it'd be 20 to 30% theoretically for the commercial.
Yeah.
Okay, so on the credit score, what would you need for agency?
680,
680, what would you need for non-agency?
600,
How about for commercial, non-issue?
600.
600, and full doc, non-issue?
No, full doc commercial, you need like a 680.
Okay, full doc commercial, okay. And you said, though, but for agency in that scenario, For Fannie and Freddie, it's 15% down.
Yes.
Got it. Thanks.
Got it. Who's got a scenario?
Second home. Plan to do a 1031 exchange and purchase some apartments. Excuse me, basically to provide economies of scale and to finance. They're probably gonna be going into assisted living in a couple of years. So
Okay.
we're looking at the financing alternatives for commercial property.
Okay.
And just want to know which one probably would be the best way to go.
So, 7's gonna be the least expensive, but you're probably gonna be at a commercial. So a commercial lender doing a commercial property. Because the rest of those are for single family and or up to 4 units. So you're gonna have to put down 30%. This is basically at 70% loan to value. If, you know, you have a plan like Wendy's going in with no experience, but it sells the principles of the lenders, they may say, okay, we'll do it at 50% loan to value. So anything's negotiable and things can happen, but typically you're at 70% loan to value. People want to see assets, a great business plan, high net operating income. So here, we start talking about NOI. No one's gonna ask you about NOI if you own one house and you're buying another house and no one's gonna go into NOI and cap rate, you know. But here, we will start talking about NOI and cap rates. Raise your hand if you don't know how to calculate rate NOI or cap rates.
Just say I don't.
Okay. So, the net operating income is the gross revenue minus the expenses of the property, okay? So if you're buying an apartment building, they're not gonna use the total revenue to calculate the DSCR. They're gonna use the NOI. So if you collect $200,000 in rent, and you have $100,000 in expenses, it's $100,000 in NOI a year, right? And then from that point, if the mortgage payment is $50,000 PITI, you have a 2-to-1 debt service coverage ratio. Okay? You wanna know the number one reason why prospectuses and loans get denied for apartment buildings? Because they don't have the loan repayment in the prospectus. I always thought that was funny. I wanna borrow $3 million, but they don't have the loan repayment in the prospectus. Cap rate. So, if the, Steve, how do you calculate cap rate? That's right. Thank you, Steve.
Repeat that.
Net operating income divided by the value of the property. So, cap rates have gone down, right? So if the property makes $100,000 a year, and it's worth $1 million, that's a 10 cap property, okay? But more likely, we're gonna use the NOI to divide it by the average cap rate to arrive at the value. Okay? So if you tell me a building makes $100,000 a year, and the average apartment is selling for a 10 cap, I'm gonna know automatically it's worth $1 million. Right? So if you tell me you're buying this building for $3 million, a red flag will automatically go up. In my mind, and everyone's mind who comes across this proposal. So that's the real purpose of capitalization rate, in my
How do you
opinion.
determine the average cap rate for a particular area?
It's a industry standard. So cap rates right now for apartments were at 10, but now I'm seeing them at 7. In California, it's like a 1 cap. It's crazy out there. It's a great place to convert something. Wendy, if you convert something like what you're talking about
Do it count?
in California,
It's just so expensive to get in, because when you buy a hotel, it's 3 times. So, like, the investment into it will be really, really high.
yeah, but that same building, he's talking about in Georgia, is worth $1 million, is worth
Right.
10 million.
Right.
So,
Right.
keep an open mind. Go where the money is.
What did you just say about 1% cap rate in California?
That's what most of the commercial buildings are averaging as an industry standard, is
So
a
why
1
would you
cap.
wanna go there with a small cap rate? I don't get it.
Because if you buy a Motel 6 that's out of business and you get it for whatever and you can make it profitable, it's worth 10 times as much as it would be here in
Here.
Georgia.
But I'd have to, can't sell it at a low cap rate.
Yeah.
So where are those Airbnbs gonna flourish? Obviously, California. Are people gonna do Airbnbs where there's an experience too? For instance, at like, I would say like at Disney World, I don't know.
I mean, I don't either. I think it's taken off. I think it's gonna be very common. I think people love the opportunity to rent their house when they're out of town, and it's gonna be everywhere. So, that's got to take from something else. And it's gonna take it from the cheap motels, because nobody wants to stay there anyway.
We just had our first Airbnb class here. Did you know that?
What's that?
Jason taught an Airbnb class here. We had like 35 people.
It was like 2 months ago.
Yeah, and we had an Airbnb general session meeting.
Yeah, that's what.
What's the cap rate for street malls?
It depends on the quality of them, but I'd say anywhere from 10 to 12.
Same as Bill?
Well, it's going down fast. I've seen them now that people are talking about 6 and 7. It can be anywhere from, it's hard to say in a hot market, but it can be anywhere from 5 to 10.
So what will be effect of rising interest rate on cap rate? Is it gonna go up?
Steve, take that one. Take that one, Stevie.
Everything else is the same, but interest rates are going
So cap rate will go up, that means value will go down?
up. Interest rate doesn't calculate into cap rate, it's net operating income. You
I understand,
you
but.
haven't taken into account
I didn't
principal
get
and
that.
interest.
it.
But if your principal and interest goes up, your interest rate goes up, then your cash flows
What
go
kind of
up.
property?
Your profits
That's a
go
strip
up.
mall.
Strip mall, okay.
So then value will go down. Value will go down, right?
Your cash flow will go down. Cap rate's not affected.
Did I answer your question about your apartment building scenario?
Yeah.
Okay. Resumes are gonna be a
You
factor.
guys are talking
So you
strip malls.
definitely don't wanna go
Happy hotels.
on about someone wanting to retire in a couple years. It's not gonna win anyone over.
Retired, but the issue is that the conversion of those properties.
Yeah, so you're gonna have a business plan challenge, a resume challenge, experience challenge, if you find a great property and have great income and assets. Got a scenario, Chris?
No, I'm just thinking about the reverse mortgage thing. I have questions for that later.
That's definitely a lot check.
Have you heard any negatives about reverse mortgage?
Just generally, people say that, you know, like you lose your house and da-da-da-da-da, but I assume that's not.
You lose your house is the most common misconception. It's absolutely false.
Mhm.
You stay on title. How would you lose your house? Unless you don't know where it is. Or maybe you lost it. Maybe you can't find it.
Call real.
Which is possible.
Yeah, once you're in evergreen,
Hey, listen, so I had, my uncle took out a reverse mortgage and my wife's aunt took out a reverse mortgage. And the biggest downside is the cost to close these things. One of my students was just quoted by you, I think, 24,000 closing costs for a reverse mortgage.
Yeah.
But,
In the US.
here's
the
what
US
happened, here's a
government
little twist
appreciates
you
your
don't
support
think
for
of.
Schools, streets.
My uncle still had significant equity in his house, it was a nice house in New England. And my sister called me up, he had to go into a nursing home. We didn't do the wheelchair once a month thing, so they had to pay the reverse mortgage. He still had equity, you guys were talking about buying rundown hotels when Airbnb is eating them up. This guy wants to buy a strip mall when everyone's shopping online. Whoa,
Yeah.
take it easy, guys.
But, we are gonna have a certain level of strip malls
Sure.
and hotels.
Sure we
Who's got a scenario? Mary, talk to me.
I don't have anything like that.
How many, properties do you own?
I'm getting rid of rental property, just single-family residential that I own.
Okay.
You're getting rid of single-family residential? Okay.
Is that,
I just wanna be out of that, right?
you tired of being a landlord?
Yes. And I didn't like management companies.
Okay.
And then when the market, if we have a market downturn again, I may get back into the market. But right now, the market's good.
Yeah.
I want some free time.
Yeah, sell when it's high. It's not just a Wi-Fi password. Yeah, that's a Wi-Fi password here, sell high. So how many, so you're liquidating your assets. How are you contending with the tax consequence? You just gonna pay it and,
Right now, the taxes are fairly reasonable.
yeah, but once you sell, you're gonna have capital gains, are you not?
Yeah, I mean, my accountant's saying that.
Well, your accountant's gonna tell you to pay a big bill unless you 1031 exchange it, or you, what are you gonna, what do you?
I'm good in that.
Okay. All right,
What were you gonna suggest to
Net
her?
operating income.
What's that?
What were you gonna suggest to her
Interest.
if she were concerned about the tax bill?
1031,
Okay.
yeah,
But then you just get another property.
that's true.
Yeah, 1031 defeats the purpose of being a landlord, but you can change the
Right.
simpler, easier to manage properties.
Exactly.
So
That's what I wanna do.
something your
That's what I'm
kids
doing.
or
I'm doing
spouse
two
will want.
1031s.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
wanna acquire some land to put, mini warehouse on.
Okay. Yeah,
So I'll probably do a commercial lot or full dock, I have to do that, I'm sure.
yeah. If they ever legalize weed in Georgia, warehouses is the way to roll.
It won't happen, it'll be one of the last states.
Yeah, but in Colorado, warehouses
Oh,
are
like crazy.
insanely
But
expensive.
if you order the warehouses, you wanna go, where the distribution areas would be like around, Columbia, South Carolina, down south of Georgia. I think will be great.
Self-storage.
For big warehouse, for all these distribution plants to go in.
Yeah.
You wanna be on the main road, main interstates. So Columbia, South Carolina is wonderful for that. We have a couple there.
That's my alma mater. Go Gamecocks.
You know the area now.
Yeah. In the back, do you have a scenario for me?
Not at the moment.
Okay. All right. Well,
Let's take that back. Let me give you some area. Just talking about apartments a minute ago. What if it's not a quad? What if it's just a little bigger?
okay, so if it's 5 units or more, thank you, that's a fantastic question. If it's 5 units or more, it's commercial. It's commercially zoned. It's no longer residential. So it's 5, so if it goes from 4 units to 5 units, you've eliminated all these possible lenders.
You eliminated number 3 too?
Yeah. It's 4 residential.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
You can only use commercial lenders and agency commercial lenders. Once you get 5 units or
So
more.
that's your full dock, basically, on the commercial.
Well, yes, but your taxes and business plan is based on a prospectus. So it's based on common sense underwriting, you know? You can't show up with your pockets unfolded and say, I hope to make $1 million doing this, I just need $1 million to get started. You know, you gotta have,
What's the basic difference between 6 and 7?
So Fannie Mae's loan amounts on commercials basically start 100 million. You know, it's just big boy numbers. Yeah. And SBA doesn't do investment properties, but they do hotels. So you could buy an existing hotel, say you're trying to turn it around, and then change your business plan mid-process as a bona fide change of circumstances. Being the cutting edge industry leader that you are. Yes, Mary?
What are the highest return ventures right now?
Highest return ventures?
Yeah, without a lot of risk. You know, like personal care homes are supposed to be really out there on returns.
Steve?
If you want.
I mean, that's a business, a personal care home is a business, you're gonna have employees and government regulations, otherwise it'd be.
Oh, yes.
So let's say businesses.
I'm in the class of tigers here, guys, you know, you guys are blowing my mind. Wow.
It depends, I mean.
You just said you wanna be a landlord, now you wanna run a business of personal care?
I don't personally want to run it.
I mean,
So my mother-in-law is in a, over here in Alpharetta, she pays $2,600 a month for an independent living, 600 square foot studio. And I thought, man, these guys are coining money. Well, I'll tell you what's happening, they're throwing them up on every block.
Yeah.
You walk out of her door and there's 8 vacancies in a row in the corridor. I mean,
But the aging population is increasing drastically.
but they're outbuilding the aging population.
Really?
Yes, yeah, Midtown's
That's not
overbuilt,
what I
Alpharetta's getting
understood.
overbuilt, you know, we're about due to do a little bit of a recession.
Go up on Johnson Ferry Road, they got them going up there faster than.
Yeah.
so there's 22 multi-million-dollar developments coming into west side of Atlanta, where CSX have sold the 350 acres of train tracks and a number of things. Those are all basically 5 levels, first floor commercial, top 4 floors are residential apartments, dog-friendly, live-work communities. So that's the
I mean,
generic
I just
mold.
threw that out as an example of a moneymaker. You know,
Mhm.
so I just thought maybe off the top of your head, you just kind of know.
Here's what happens, anything that's making a higher rate of return is higher risk, almost by definition. Higher risk / higher one. That's the way it works. Once you get out of T-bills, you're on a risk-reward curve. And you start running nursing homes, boarding houses, you know, whatever, put all your money in one multifamily, you turn around, you're playing a risky game.
One of the
I would
risk-
say you probably shouldn't be playing a risky game, just
Yeah.
based on maturity.
Yeah,
Okay.
and Steve and I don't agree on everything, most
Sure.
things.
Except for
most
the
things
debt
we-
service coverage ratio calculation.
But I'm not a big fan of the stock market. I think people need to get the hell out right now. But if everyone followed my advice, it would be a self-fulfilled
Yeah,
prophecy,
exactly.
because it would create a crash. So, but I think it's reached its pinnacle, and if you're planning on putting money in the stock market now, I think you should have some really low expectations. And I'd rather see you stuff your mattress.
Some people did a few years ago.
But I'll give you a quick example on it, and I'll just make a point. One of the richest women in the world ships containers from China to send materials by here.
I couldn't hear you.
Ships containers from China for the U.S. consumption of Chinese materials. She exponentially increased her income and revenue by taking trash back from New York, where they recycle it in China and ship it back to us.
Wow, it's kind of a.
As
So,
what? As what? What
as
should it
more
be?
junk we buy from China, literally. So that is an example of a business that thrives. And so every business that thrives is an example of that. So your question is layered with complexity. When I was in business consulting, you would never believe the businesses that killed it. Like, you know, They look humble from the outside. One of them was, my non-disclosure agreement is expired, so I can talk about this. It was only 5 years. So one of them was the King of Swings on Buford Highway. That's his business, the King of Swings. He builds swing sets. He sells them for like $3,000. He pumps them. They're sweet. They've got slides and tunnels and swings. The materials though were less than $100 per swing, and they were assembled in like an hour of 4x4 construction. And when I saw this guy's financials, I was boggled. I was like, this is brilliant. King of Swings, thriving industry. Another one, these guys that do the stickers on taxi cabs in Atlanta. They have a big printing press, they print the stickers out. Taxis have to have like 20 stickers or something ridiculous. So they would charge $500, these taxis would pull in, they'd sticker them up, they'd leave. It was like, I was like, what an amazing business.
And what are the stickers?
They're just taxis is information. They have to have a certain number of stickers on all sides.
So much a mile, I guess.
Yeah. Another business that thrived, they did window washing for hotels. They put people on scaffolding, sent them 500 feet in the air. Nobody wants to do that. They killed it. They kill it. Their biggest account is Marriott. You know, I was looking at their financials. I was like, wow, you guys have, they outsourced everything. They had very little staff, and their margins were ridiculous. So anything that has a high margin, that you can outsource everything and keep your overhead lean, is a fantastic business. So there's about 100 of them. And the reason why that question is even more difficult to answer is because all the people who are successful in that industry try to keep their business a secret. You will only know if you get an invitation. And then they're going to want you not to talk about it. All right, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to take 40 minutes for lunch. 40 minutes or an hour or 30 minutes?
It's nothing coming in, we all gotta go out or what?
I don't think so, because it was a 4-hour class. During that, I want to give you all an assignment. Come back with a topic that we haven't explored. And the best ones are going to get fully expanded on. All right? Bring it together. Okay, go team break.